SEU project, Social Engaged Universities, funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. The aim of the project has been to understand how higher education institutions can respond to the needs of their local communities. And to this end, a series of innovative pilot projects have been implemented in each partner city, and new approaches to community engagement have been developed and shared. We have done all this in a very peculiar time, pandemic time, and the lockdowns and the social gathering restrictions have been a constraint in the implementation of the pilot projects and in the management of our project meetings as well. This exceptional condition has forced us to change our plans and methods of research too. But if we want to see the bright side of such hard times, this has also been the opportunity to explore new ways of getting connected among us, project partners, and also with communities and civil society. We have experienced new ways and tools to overcome the physical distancing, and I believe that the value of this project stands not only in the outcomes of our pilot project with local communities, but also in the resilience and the efforts we all made to accomplish our tasks despite the emergency. Now, let me explain some logistics for the day. There's a slight change in the program due to some of our Vice Rector previous commitments. So I will first give the floor to Fabrizio Storti, Vice Rector for the third mission of the University of Parma. He will open up the conference with some thoughts on the future of third mission in the upcoming social, environmental, and economic context. Then we will give the floor to Lindsay Henderson, University of Exeter, SEU Project Coordinator. The third presentation will be given by Alessio Cavicchi from the University of Pisa. His key research interests involve university-society cooperation, quadruple helix of innovation, and the participatory action research. He will discuss the challenges that the university is called to face in the third mission as perceived by a researcher involved in such a topic. We will then break out in two parallel sessions. The first one will discuss the topic how to enhance the trust between local stakeholders and the university. The coordinator is the University of Parma. The second one is about how to solve societal challenges through intersectoral and multi-stakeholder collaboration coordinated by Kent University. And I will paste the links for the parallel sessions in the chat box at the end of the plenary session. At 12, the parallel sessions will end and we will have 1 hour break. At 1, we will have the second round of parallel sessions, and the afternoon, let's say afternoon parallel sessions, will discuss the following topics: building long-term, sustainable, mutually beneficial relationships between the university and the community. This is coordinated by the Netherlands, the Hague University of Applied Science. And the last one is taking a place-based approach to community engagement, coordinated by Exeter. At 2 o'clock, we will meet again in the plenary session, and each group's moderator will present the main take-home messages of the parallel session. At 2:40, Lindsay will draw the general conclusions on the lessons learned from the SEU project. To this end, I would like to encourage everyone to contribute to this throughout the day by entering thoughts and reflections on the Padlet I'm going to paste in the chat box. I remind you we are recording these sessions. It seems that everybody agrees on it. And in each parallel session, a member of Parma Team University will be there to manage the technical issue. So I give the floor to the Vice Rector, Professor Fabrizio Storti.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Good morning, everybody. I will just take a few minutes of your time to share with you some thoughts on the role of the third mission in this peculiar period, very peculiar period. The third mission of the university represents the outreach to society, and this strictly integrated, of course, with both research and education missions. Despite services to societies have also always been part of the activities of university researchers, in the last decade, I would say its importance has significantly increased. Also because there was the economical crisis, big economical crisis in 2008, when the strategical value of the technological innovation became straightforward. And this view is clearly represented in the new Horizon Europe program, where two of the three pillars deal with the synergic interplay between university and society, namely Pillar 2, Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness, and Pillar 3, Innovative Europe. And we can see the same for the 5 missions of the program. The first one is adaptation to climate changes, support at least 150 European regions and communities to become climate resilient by 2030. The second is cancer, improving the lives of more than 3 million people by 2030 through prevention, care, and for those affected by cancer, including their families, to live longer and better. The third is restore our ocean and waters by 2030. The fourth is 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030. And the last mission is Soil Deal for Europe, 100 living labs and lighthouses to lead the transition toward healthy soils by 2030. I just went through the list to point out that there is a common deadline in all these 5 missions, no? The year 2030. And this deadline testifies for the growing influence of the United Nations Agenda 2030 in the European policies, triggered also by the dramatic effects of the extreme climate variability and of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, to react against such a natural economic and social difficulties, Europe provided us the extraordinary opportunity to redesign our society, our lifestyle, industrial technology, the logistics, the energy production, and so on, thanks to the Next Generation Europe Fund. So this is, I would say, an epochal challenge that the European universities are asked to share and exchange knowledge with the society in the broader sense of this word. Accordingly, I would say that in the next few years, European universities are asked to give their best in the third mission. Whether we will win the challenge fundamentally depends on the awareness of individuals, on their degree of information and knowledge, and university, by sharing culture, strongly contributes to persuading citizens that it is necessary to rethink the way they live, the way we live. Public engagement is essential to achieve this goal. This is the social area of the third mission, including also social justice, which must mitigate the great inequalities that characterize the living condition of different peoples and within also individual nations. Then there is the second leg, I would say. So there is a technological challenge associated with the need to reduce up to eventually stop climate-altering gas emissions. Being aware that massive digitalization of information and processes for instance, Industry 4.0, also contributes to these emissions. So it is not easy. The challenge is extremely complex, but there are no alternatives, I would say, to the need of accepting and winning it. So we have to do this for preserving our future, the future of Homo sapiens, not the future of the planet. This is another matter. The third mission of the university plays a fundamental role in this challenge because supporting industry to modify production technologies, encouraging and supporting innovative entrepreneurship of young people, finding new technology for renewable energy production and storage, new technology for CO2 sequestration, new technology for smart agriculture and food packaging, for minimizing food waste, optimizing the reuse and recycling of materials, and so on and so on. I could stay here 10 minutes more to make a long list. All these are actions pertaining to the third mission of the university, namely to the technological transfer subject area of the third mission. So just to conclude, to describe, just in 1 minute, what is happening in our territory in the last year, in the last months. Last December 15, the Parma Carbon Neutrality Alliance was signed by all the major public and industrial players in the territory, and the roadmap was drawn following the examples of very effective communities that are working on this since many years, like the cities of Bristol and Sunderland in the UK. So we look at how they manage to build up pathways towards carbon neutrality, and we try to do the same, but we started just 1 year ago. The present day carbon balance, however, is now available. We made all our computations, and the balance, of course, as expected, is quite bad. And so we have to take action and reverse the trend. So in this framework, we are aware that the third mission of the Parma University is fundamental to drive and support this very challenging process in our territory, starting from the dissemination of knowledge up to technology improvements and also environmental remediations. So if the cultural contamination of the third mission will be able to coagulate all the components of our community around the challenge of carbon neutrality with all the implications that it contains, we will be able to reach the goal. And we will do this, I'm sure, and we have to be very, very positive. So thank you for listening at me, and good work, enjoying this Congress, and sorry, but I have to disconnect and enter in another meeting that I cannot postpone. So enjoy this Congress again. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fabrizio, for your thought about the huge social environmental challenges that universities are going to face and are already facing. Now, I'm very pleased to give the floor to Lindsay, our project coordinator. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Now, I'm going to try and share my screen, which generally doesn't tend to go very well. I've not managed to do that yet, have I? Let me have a look. Oh, gosh. Can you see that?
Yes.
But why aren't I getting it on my screen?
Yeah.
Beginning. Right, there we go.
Okay.
Okay. Now, hang on. Oh, dear. I am sorry. You'd think after 18 months that I'd be able to do this with my eyes closed. Okay, right. As long as everybody can see that, please shout now if you can't see my slides, but I'll assume that everybody can. Thanks. No, I thought somebody was coming in there because I can't see you now. All I can see is my screen and my notes. So good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for coming to this final conference of the Socially Engaged Universities project. As most of you know, I am Lindsay Anderson. I'm Regional Engagement Manager from the University of Exeter in the UK, and it's been my absolute privilege to manage this project over the last almost 3 years. Thank you so much to Cecilia and to Millie and to Mariana and the rest of the Parma team for organising and hosting this event. My only disappointment, and I'm sure that you'll agree with me, is that it's such a huge shame that we aren't able to be together in person today in your beautiful city. So I just wanted to give a very quick reminder of what the programme looked like. I know that this has changed a little bit now at the beginning, but I wanted to point your attention back to the fact that at the end of the day, we will be coming back together again, and I've been asked to draw some general conclusions on the lessons learned from the SEU project. As Cecilia mentioned, I would really like your help in this. So we have put together a Padlet. I think that Cecilia has put that in the chat, and I would be extremely grateful if you could, throughout the day, just take a moment to follow this link, go to the Padlet. It's very easy to use if you haven't used it before, and just have a little think about what lessons we have learned about the relationship between universities and their civic and civil societies. Think about what we've learned from each of the outputs, what we've learned from today's session. And this might be lessons for universities, for their community partners, for policymakers or funders, or anything else that you can think of. It'd be really helpful if you can begin to sort of populate this Padlet for me throughout the day. If you don't help me out with this might be a very short session at the end of the day. So please do, just take a few minutes and perhaps over lunch just to have a quick look and to put your thoughts and reflections on that Padlet. But firstly, I've been asked to present an overview of the results of the SEU project. I thought I would start by going back to the very beginning, which actually seems like an awful long time ago now. And it was late 2017 when I was relatively new in the regional engagement team here at Exeter University, and I began conversations with my boss, Andrew Dean, who many of you will know, about the possibility of working with partners from the e-Universities network, which again many of you are familiar with, on a project which was exploring the relationship between universities and their cities. So we put a call out to the network and some interesting partners emerged. A bid was written, submitted to Erasmus+, and hey presto, we won. So this was a very exciting time. We held our first project meeting in Exeter in December 2018. I'm so pleased that we were able, looking back, to hold this meeting in person. And I remember that first meeting being delighted to learn that my partners in this project seemed to be an absolutely lovely bunch of intelligent people who seemed to be fun to work with. And importantly, they all lived in beautiful cities. Thought this was going to be a great opportunity to see some of the most lovely cities in Europe. So the Magdeburg team took the lead on our first work package. And then we were lucky enough to come out to Parma in May 2019 for our second partner meeting. This was a really great opportunity to get to know each other a bit better. We were able to plan our outputs, and we were, of course, treated to the delights of amazing local delicacies. We then published our first output, the state-of-the-art review, bang on time in the summer of 2019. And then carried on working on our second output. So in November 2019, we saw our first international conference. And this was organised and hosted by the Ghent team. And we were able to launch our second output at this meeting. And this was the case study compendium. And for many of us, that probably, or could have been, the last time that we attended an in-person conference. Hosted in the Museum of Ghent, we had a great day of international speakers, a panel session and breakout workshops. And again, this was all accompanied by great food. And then we emerged into 2020 and times began to change a little bit. January 2020 brought the disappointment, shame and embarrassment of Brexit. And then, of course, the global pandemic hit, changing the way we lived, worked and coped with life in general. The pandemic impacted everything we did and meant that we had to totally rethink how we could deliver our pilot projects. Restrictions meant that we couldn't meet in person in Magdeburg. or in Delft, and instead we held online meetings. But remarkably, we've still managed to design, deliver 5 varied impactful projects where our universities worked with the city or community partners to address a societal concern. We subsequently completed the pilot study synthesis early this year. And finally, I'm really proud to announce the launch of the final SEU output, the SEU Toolkit, which I'll talk a little bit more about in detail in a few minutes. So I'm just going to go on now to just give a very brief overview of each of the outputs and the findings. I know many of you were there with me along this journey, but hopefully we've got a few people in the audience who are less familiar with these outputs. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a reminder of what we did and what our findings were. So our first output was a state-of-the-art review of partnerships between the university and the civic and civil societies, led by our colleagues in Magdeburg. This review updated a 2016 systematic review of community university partnerships, and we added in newly published articles and case studies from non-academic journals and publications. We provided an overview of the different models and approaches of partnerships. We explored the governance, function and structure, motivations for partnering, and the different characteristics of each of these partnerships. We then focused in on each of the partner countries and described how regional and national context and policies support or hinder partnerships between universities and their communities. And finally, we looked at some of the unique partnerships between academic institutions and the communities in each of our partner countries. We explored the practicalities of what works and what doesn't work, and tried to understand how partnerships demonstrate and evaluate the impact of their activities on all stakeholders and the wider society. We found that universities are increasingly responding to local challenges by partnering with the communities, and these partnerships have led to impact across a broad range of areas. While each partnership is unique, there are a number of recurring themes which emerge from the partnerships. The development of trust between partners was a key common feature, as was the need for mutual benefit for all partners. This was deemed to be a necessity of a successful partnership by most of the authors of the case studies. One of the biggest challenges described by the authors was maintaining the sustainability of partnerships beyond short-term project funding. Time commitment required to build trust and lasting relationships was also a common concern. And disappointingly, few case studies described the challenges from the point of view of community partners. Professional weavers or brokers who are embedded in the community were described as enablers by some authors and were recommended to help partnerships to be more inclusive. Unsurprisingly, core university funding was also described as a significant enabler by some authors. Finally, in terms of evaluation, we found that the majority of partnerships described in this report had not been formally evaluated, which wasn't terribly helpful for understanding what worked and what hadn't. So then our second output was our case study compendium. And we went on to explore in depth a series of innovative partnerships between universities and their communities carried out within each of the SEU partner institutions. Led by the Ghent team, the second output sought to answer questions such as why this brochure was taken, what were the results, what worked and what didn't, and what are the lessons learned that could inform similar exercises. The projects that we looked at were really varied. In Ghent, we explored the City of People project, which aimed to tackle loneliness in the elderly by empowering citizens to solve the issue for themselves. In Magdeburg, we looked at 2 projects, the Student Custody Project and Intact. Both of these projects are connected to the interdisciplinary bachelor programme, Cultural Engineering, which integrates project work into its curriculum. Meanwhile, the City Deal on Education in the Netherlands is an innovative programme in which cities and universities collaborate on an equal basis to find solutions for major social and urban challenges. And in Parma, we looked at the Biodistretto, which aims to increase organic food production, sustainable farming practices, and strengthen the organic value chain between producers and consumers in the Parma province. And finally, we described Exeter Culture, a strategic collaboration between Exeter City Council and the University of Exeter, which is helping to bring cohesion to Exeter's previously fragmented cultural sector. Some of the key take-home messages from this compendium whether universities' neutral position can enable them to act as facilitators in steering processes and decision making. We found that this can help organisations and partners to tackle specific societal challenges and achieve positive impact. We also found that bottom-up approaches can be pivotal in generating trustful, long-term relationships that generate benefits for all involved parties. And we saw that collaboration can create opportunities, but partners really need to invest in long-term relationships. Meanwhile, some of the challenges that emerged include difficulties in managing large and complex collaborative networks that include a mixed group of stakeholders and can lack a sense of shared ownership. And we found that working with students raised its own issues. And this was largely related to responsibility and accountability because their involvement is often short-term in a project. And again, the lack of a systematic evaluation was found, which again essentially prevents us from understanding whether or not a process has worked. So these were the findings that were instrumental in helping us to design our own pilot projects. And this, our third output, pilot study synthesis, was led by Exeter. And we described 5 pilot projects delivered in each of the SEU institutions in partnership with either the municipality or the local community. Each project was co-designed and delivered from inception with non-academic partners to bring about mutual benefit for all parties. So in Belgium, the neutral position of the Ghent University played a really important facilitating role in a project which initiated a dialogue between the key stakeholders involved in tackling the problems related to youths in the Kierspark in Ledderburg in Ghent. In Delft, the SEU project reflects on the role of the knowledge broker in the city deal on education by interviewing various stakeholders to assess the benefits and challenges that were experienced. In Germany, collaboration between the University of Magdeburg and the City of Magdeburg aimed to learn more about the phenomenon of staying away or non-participation from the cultural events and activities in the city. In Italy, Parma Mountains of Quality aim to preserve biodiversity and reduce desertification among 60 family-managed farms in the province of Parma. And finally, in the UK, Tidelines aim to explore creative approaches to community engagement and create a community environmental hub which is focused on the Exmouth and estuary environment. So in a year plagued by global pandemic, COVID-19 impacted upon all of the SEU collaborations and meant that most of the interactions between stakeholders were conducted via online platforms such as Zoom. Nonetheless, I think all of you will agree that we made huge steps in strengthening relationships and improving trust, which have helped the project partners identify opportunities for working together better in the future. A common challenge amongst the projects was a disconnection or lack of trust between universities and the partner organisations. And in some cases, an intermediary or brokerage role was seen as key to building these relationships and helping partners to build the confidence and trust required for their collaboration. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the projects which were most successful in achieving their objectives were those that worked with and added value to already existing and established projects or relationships. And we found the benefit for the universities in these projects was largely achieved through the involvement of students. Most projects wish to continue the relationship with the community, and I think identifying opportunities for further embedding mutually beneficial student projects into the partnership is seen as a vehicle for some projects to achieve long-term impact beyond the SEU funding. So finally, it is my great pleasure to be able to officially launch the final output from the SEU project, the Socially Engaged Universities Toolkit. This has been led by the Delft team, and the toolkit is designed to help universities and their civil society partners embark on their own community-university partnership. The toolkit draws on our experience from the last 3 years and our pilot project specifically. The toolkit is available as an interactive PDF with links to podcasts, videos, flowcharts and infographics, which hopefully will help the reader to think through and start on their own process. So I'm going to be brave and bold and try and do something quite exciting. I'm going to close out of this. I am going to close that down and hopefully I'm going to stop sharing and then start sharing again. Now, can people see? Can somebody, Cecilia, I can see you. Can you give me the thumbs up if you can see the toolkit?
I see the website. Oh yes, okay. Yeah, okay.
That we can see. Wonderful. Okay, so this isn't the absolute final version, but I'm told that the final version will be available to download from the SEU website very shortly. But basically, this is what the toolkit looks like, and it's a wonderful PDF that is interactive. You can click on links and move to different projects and see the different outputs that we have as part of the toolkit. And I'm just going to very quickly demonstrate one of the components, and hopefully you'll be able to see our very own, if it works.
Yeah, there's no, we can't hear it.
Oh, sorry, you can't hear it. Not to worry. Well, there'll be plenty of opportunity. Oh, that's a funny face that we've left Alexis on. I'll escape out of that. But basically, it is a wonderful toolkit that I hope that you'll all be able to take time to explore. And hopefully it's something that we'll be able to share with our prospective partners. And it'll be an opportunity for people to not only understand what we have done, but what we've learned from it and be able to take and embed those lessons moving forward. So I think that's all from me. Thank you very much. I think I've slightly gone over my time. I hope that's not too much of a problem. Thank you, Cecilia.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Thanks for your exhaustive review on the phases, stages, and findings of our project. Now it's time to give the floor to our guest, Alessio Cavicchi from the University of Pisa. Over to you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to share my screen. I hope to have similar problems as Lindsay had, because I mean we can feel friends when we have similar problems. So well, first of all, let me say that I'm really grateful to all the consortium and especially to our colleagues in Parma, because well, this project was the chance for me for a personal reflection and also for the University of Macerata. When you contacted us at a certain point of the project to understand the kind of relationship we had with our territory, I realized that I didn't understand very well what I was doing with my research team and with some colleagues in my university. My story is a bit strange because I'm an agricultural economist. I have always studied consumer behavior, and I've tried to work on food marketing in rural areas. And I taught in the last 17 years at the University of Macerata. So starting from September 1st, I'm in the University of Pisa in Tuscany, and before I was in this university in Marche region. Well, I have to say that from a personal point of view, I've been struck by, during my university attendance when I was a student, by some professors who were devoting their efforts to practice-based learning. So I still remember some of those practices, some field trips and study visits, and I didn't realize the importance of those activities for the regional development. But it was one of the reasons why I decided to start with this work as a scholar, as a researcher. I had the chance to work at the University of Macerata since 2006, 2005, 2006. And this unspoiled region, I don't know how many of you know Macerata, usually nobody. It's not very well known. It's an unspoiled and almost unknown region. And it is the traditional house of manufacturing sectors that characterize the Made in Italy. So shoes, textile, and so on. This region was hit by the economic crisis in 2007, 2008. Many companies decided to go back to the land because they had no market in the traditional sectors of the Made in Italy, and they decided to switch to another traditional sector that was agriculture and food and gastronomy and tourism, because this region was not so the center of tourism in Italy. Then there was so the first point for me was to change my behavior towards stakeholders, because when you start teaching a topic like food marketing, and you think that with your approaches to make marketing research, you can help a territory, and then you receive the interest from companies, entrepreneurs, and they say, well, we are not really interested in these methods. We would like to have a strong collaboration with the university. So you need to reflect on your role. You need to restart thinking about the contribution that you can provide to the territory. And this was almost important during the earthquake that hit the center of Italy and Marche region specifically in 2016 and 2017. We realized that those sustainable development goals, as it has been written by Mazzucato, can be achieved only through some missions, and those missions have to be attached to the territory, to different kind of sectors, of course, not only agriculture, not only in rural settings. We have a problem usually when we have to address these issues, that we have to face multi-stakeholder actions in order to face wicked problems. As you know, wicked problems refer to issues which are highly complex, have innumerable and undefined causes, and are difficult to understand and frame. So, for instance, if you are addressing a specific sector like tourism or food or events or rural lifestyles, you need to consider all the intersections between these sectors. And there's not, of course, one size fits all solution for all the similar problems we have in different regions. So it's very important to have a university or in higher education institutions, a research center embedded in that place in order to, first of all, facilitate the achievement of those sustainable development goals. We know from a policy framework that the whole Europe is working on the smart specialization strategy. And we know that in this concept, in this bottom-up approach to boost innovation, the university plays a pivotal role in innovation for society by becoming a means of cross-fertilization and co-creation in different thematic areas and for different actors. And it's very important, this approach, because there is an evolution also in the new programming period, 2021-2027, because a smart specialization strategy called S3 is becoming S4. So smart specialization strategy for sustainability. That means that in every region, in every country, we need to consider those policy objectives every time we need to work on regional development and regional innovation. Then in your reviews, as Lindsay said, you provided many different theoretical frameworks, and I was really interested to read your reports. And I was struck because I didn't know the civic university approach. I knew the entrepreneurial university when I met you the first time, when I met the project the first time, but I didn't know the civic university approach. And this was something very familiar to us. Because when we observed the dimensions of the civic university, we realized that probably this was something very close to our attitude. But we had some experiences with another theoretical framework that was co-creation for sustainability that has been provided by Trencher, where the topic here is to go beyond the third mission and thinking the fourth mission as the co-creation for sustainability. So concrete solutions for sustainability need to be co-created by multiple actors such as universities, local governments, communities, economic actors, and civil society. So different frameworks, different approaches, but in our specific framework, we can also consider what the European Commission says about the role of universities for regional development. They, in a paper, in a research report of the JRC, the Joint Research Center, they mention the four roles of university as generative, absorptive, collaborative, and leadership. And all these roles are still mainstream now, and that they are becoming mainstream now for all the needs that are related to the SDGs, of course. And the European Commission provided a tool that is called the H-Innovate, that are 8 dimensions provided to self-reflect. It's a self-reflection tool on the role of university in several ways. So it's not a way to make a grid and to classify the different universities. It's a way to self-reflect on our role, on what we are doing and what we would like to do in the future. And we realized that this could be a more rigorous method to reflect to our role, starting from some other studies, like for instance, the state of university business collaboration in Europe, where starting from 52 good practices, good practice case studies, 24 expert interviews, measure surveys, and policy review, they realized that the most important factor to have a close university business collaboration is trust, mutual commitment, and shared goals. And I feel that this is completely in line with what Lindsay was saying before. And it's interesting to see that the kind of dimension that we need to follow and we need to search is this holistic dimension, holistic approach from university and business. Trying to have an open and collaborative environment. So this was something we tried to carry on in our pathway, starting from 2009 and up to 2021, I would say, because it's something that ended this year with my switch to another university. Here you find a timeline that describes the several projects that involved the team from our research team from 2009 to 2019. Since 2009, the University of Macerata tried to act with a sense of purpose and of place. And we tried to consider the quadruple helix approach, trying to work with our students in an innovative way for the rural region, because I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, many of you already work with this concept, with these approaches, with these pedagogical approaches. But for us, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it was completely new to work on project-based learning, problem-based learning, trying to help students to become consultants of local companies in class and then in the reality. So constructivist approaches, starting from the reality. This was a sort of key point in all those projects that we try to carry on. And there were 2 projects, the Wine Lab project and the Food Bits project, that were particularly important during the earthquake and after the earthquake, to help local communities to restart, to reopen their minds and to get new ideas from students. So as an Erasmus Plus project like yours, I mean, we had the chance to work in knowledge alliances and strategic partnerships, and we try to create hubs, living labs. We try to let entrepreneurs and students working together. We try to favor the creation of new business ideas. The critical point there was that we've been able to mobilize a lot of stakeholders with a lot of meetings, but at the end it was very difficult to find to have real business innovation ideas that could become startup companies or new companies. This was our problem. So we mobilized a lot of different partners around some new ideas, but we didn't have at the end the support from regional governments or from business associations available to make an incubation program or an acceleration program of these ideas. What we discovered anyway was that, and here we come to the civic university approach and to a new role for universities. We discovered that there were some dimensions, some evidences in our work by working with these entrepreneurs and stakeholders. First of all, the co-creation was related to linking practice, research, and policy. And from the side of researchers, this is a very difficult task because it's time-consuming, as you said, Lindsay, before. So you need to spend a lot of time to work in practice, to help local communities, but you need to do it also by collaborating with policymakers, with regional governments. And it takes a lot of time. Then there is another point that is related to the engagement. All these dimensions, in our experience, have been generators of trust. The open up and support dialogue within the quadruple helix players was related to the engagement, and the engagement and the ownership of these activities are two dimensions that are strictly connected. So if I work with the territory, I need to be sure that what I'm doing as a scholar can be felt as part of stakeholders' life. So I need to provide the ownership of this activity to others outside university. And of course, this is another problem because we need to change our attitude to be focused for a lot of time of our working time to publications, of course. And then we need to consider the relationship between young and the elderly, young people and the elderly, and so the intergenerational view for our of this work. So all these issues, all these points together are very close to the idea of a civic university with the sense of purpose, active engagement, holistic approach, sense of place. So, I mean, when we discovered you, we discovered that there was an approach that could describe us very well. So, which are the spillover effect of these activities that we have carried out in Macerata, and how other universities in Europe can take part to such processes. I would like to give three ideas, three programs that maybe can be important for the follow-up of your project as well. First of all, the forward-looking cooperation projects, one specific call of Erasmus Plus, whose objectives are to kickstart changes and to test innovative solutions able to generate a sustainable and systemic impact, to support transnational cooperation, as you did in the project, and to facilitate the gathering and analysis of evidence to confirm innovative policies and practices. This is the outline and the objective of this call. There are three projects ongoing now. They are Behind Scale, USIMAP, and TAE 2.0, together with React project. We are partnering Macerata because I'm still carrying on many works in Macerata, many projects. And the aim of these projects is to find some tools that can cement, that can increase this collaboration by having a long-lasting perspective. perspective. One of these tools is in fact H-Innovate, this self-reflection tool. As you can see here, you have several dimensions that can be considered as a leadership and governance, organizational capacity on funding, people, incentives, entrepreneurial teaching and learning, all dimensions that can be important to boost the innovation capacity and the entrepreneurial capacity of students, if students can be at the center of this dialogue between different stakeholders within the quadruple helix approach. So we keep it short. We have collected a lot of material. I will send you these references. We have tried to support regional governments in their smart specialization strategy, new programming exercise for the 2021-2027. And we discovered that there are many bottlenecks because when we think about regional development, higher education institutions are not involved from the beginning in the design and implementation of these policies, not only smart specialization strategy, I mean, regional policies everywhere. We don't consider that university can provide talent, ideas, and solutions to regional challenges. And sometimes we don't refer to universities to look for some solutions. And this is a problem for universities as well, because we are not able several times to disseminate and to adequately communicate what is the potential we have in our universities. Another solution, another program that I think it would be important to keep in mind is this higher education institution initiative. This has been boosted by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. You know that probably there are many EIT food, EIT raw material, EIT urban mobility, and they are all involved in enlargement of their activity to boost innovation with several universities in Europe. There has been a call last summer and 64 consortia applied and 23 projects were funded. One of these projects is carried out in Pisa. I'm currently working on it, and it's about the startup development and co-creation, starting from this business idea of students. So we work with students through some hackathons. One hackathon will be performed on the 26th of October. And we are collecting idea in order to incubate and then accelerate the idea that starts from local challenges. We ask entrepreneurs to provide their challenges, and we ask students to work on these challenges and to provide their ideas and solutions. The last point I would like to share with you is this work that is carried out in this period by the JRC, because there is a series of a webinar series on the S4, the concept that I told you before. The S4 stands for directionality. I mean, it tries to provide to these place-based strategies the SDGs perspective, and it is applied as the prorector of University of Parma said before in different programs like Horizon. This series of webinars, I think they can be very helpful to go more in depth and to increase an alliance that you started with this consortium. So to sum up, it's important to have a change in our higher education institutions. These are some of the keywords, in my opinion, starting from our experience, that can be related to the co-creation for sustainability. This probably fourth mission, if you want to increase the number of definitions and approaches. What I would like to stress is this constructivist approach perspective. So working with students in the middle of this quadruple helix, being the students the most important players, who can provide their solutions, who can help to collaborate and to engage other stakeholders at regional level. It's very important for us to reflect on university's role. So is there an emerging role that we need to consider? And about the researcher's role. So all these kind of activities can be done only by engaged, committed researchers, or these are tasks that all the researchers can work on. Is it something to do in the spare time, or is it something that can become a real holistic approach? So I will leave you with this statement. Any scientific inquiry which is made of the level of human encounter involves the inquirer into an interpersonal exchange. The inquirer has to gain confidence of the community with which she works. The centers of human existence can be reached only if there is a common trust that the encounter takes place for the benefit of people involved. This means that there is, in last resort, no mere observer position in such an encounter. There is common search for common good. I will provide you with references and websites so you can share your thoughts with me as well, even during the next weeks and months. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So much food for thought in your discussion, in your presentation. And I think your presentation will be really useful also for the discussion in the parallel sessions. So thanks again. And okay, now you see that I've pasted the links to the first two parallel sessions, and I'm going to paste the links of the afternoon parallel session. And I also want to remind you to contribute in the Padlet provided by Anderson and by Lindsay with your thoughts and suggestions. At this point, I think we can break out. Each of us will join the parallel session to which it's registered. And I just remind the first one is coordinated by Università di Parma and the second one by University of Ghent. Okay, see you there then. Thank you. Thank you, Alessio. Thanks again.
Thank you, Alessio. Thank you very much.